Yesterday, Helen shared our first word from the cross. Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Today, our second word comes from John's Gospel. I want to begin by reading the passage within which this word is located. When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. Let's not tear it, they said to one another. Let's decide by lot who gets it. So this is what the soldiers did. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the disciple took her into his home. John's Gospel is the only Gospel to record these words, but then these words may have been particularly pertinent to John, as it's likely that he himself is the unnamed disciple Jesus refers to as the disciple whom Jesus loved. There's evidence that John was a cousin of Jesus. If true, then Mary, Jesus' mother, was also John's auntie. These words flow from the preceding verses, where the soldiers divide up Jesus' clothes. They decide to leave the linen undergarment in one piece, instead casting lots for it. It's difficult to imagine in our world of fast fashion or cheap fashion that clothes could have such value, but they do. Tradition tells us that a mother usually made the undergarment for a son as a gift on leaving home. This may have prompted Jesus to consider Mary's plight, to see Mary at this point. And when Jesus sees his mother, as it says in verse 26, what does he see? Does he see the look on her face when the soldiers rolled the dice for his clothing? Does he see the flinch as they hold up the undergarment she had lovingly woven for him? Does he see her terror and anguish as the babe she bore and nursed at her breast is pinned to the cross and lifted up to die? Simeon had told Mary a few days after Jesus' birth that a sword would pierce her own soul. Does Jesus see the pain of that sword etched on Mary's face? It's not natural for a mother to witness the death of a child, something some of us understand from excruciating first-hand experience. An experience that is being replicated at this very time over and over again in Ukraine. Having seen Mary, Jesus addresses her, "Dear woman." He uses a term which is one of respect and affection, but he doesn't call her mother, possibly because he needs to emphasize a separation from her. He does the same at the wedding feast in Cana. Is it because she needs to see him there not only as her son, but as her saviour? "Here is your son," Jesus says, and he directs her to the unnamed disciple, probably John. And he says to John, "Here is your mother." It's clear that Jesus is asking John to take on the responsibility for Mary, to protect her and provide for her, because he will no longer be able to do so. Although the Gospels don't tell us explicitly, it's likely that Joseph had died and that Jesus, as the oldest sibling, had responsibility for the family. What's surprising is that Jesus looks to John and not his own siblings to do this role, possibly because his brothers were not yet believers at this point. Jesus knows that Mary needs someone who will understand her spiritual needs. Our relationships with other Christians can be more significant than even with our close family. As with many of Jesus' words from the cross, we find a remarkable concern with the needs of others, despite the agony he was enduring. Even in death, Jesus sees his mother, he honours her, and he caters for her needs. All this confirms to us the importance of family. Family is central. The church is founded by a man who cared deeply for his family. So let's not think God calls us to neglect our family so that we might follow Jesus. Our first duty in following Jesus is to our families, to care for them, to provide for them, to protect them, and to meet their spiritual needs. May God help us to care for our loved ones, to encourage them to follow Jesus, to be the best witness we can of God's love to them, and to love them as best we can. I invite you to spend a few moments now and remember your family before God in prayer.